What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at a potential fight in the middleweight division that may be close to a done deal. And that fight is, of course, Israel Adesanya versus Khamzat Chimaev. And the reason I think that this may be close to a done deal is because we've had a leak come out of Saudi Arabia. A Saudi Arabian site for Riyadh season posted up an event that said UFC Fight Night Adesanya versus Chimaev, and they were trying to sell tickets for that event. However, we've been assured already that those tickets were fake and that that event has not been confirmed whatsoever for Saudi Arabia, so maybe we can just close that chapter and move on. But I want to look a little bit more into this fight and why I actually think that this could be the next potential fight we see for both of these guys. Well, for starters, they're both in really tough positions in the middleweight division. Of course, you have Izzy, who is coming off of that loss against Sean Strickland for the title, and we haven't seen him since then. And we also have Hamzat, who just beat Kamaru Usman on 10 days' notice at 185 pounds. So both of these guys have weird pasts in this middleweight division, and it's going to be tough to put the pieces together for a title shot with their current resumes. Like, Adesanya definitely needs to go out there and get a win before he can go back for the title. I mean, he already had an immediate rematch a year ago against Pereira, so he doesn't need another one. Well, I mean, Strickland's not even the champ, so rushing him into the title wouldn't make sense anyways. So, yeah, he definitely needs to get a win. And Hamzat needs to beat a top 50 middleweight in order to fight for the middleweight title. I think that just makes perfect sense. I don't know how much more I could say about that, but yeah, he needs to fight somebody before he can actually go and get that title that he so desires and that the UFC really wants him to get too. So yeah, I just think it's a perfect fight for both guys at this point. It's also probably the biggest fight you could put on in the division right now. I would argue that these are the two biggest guys in middleweight right now in terms of popularity. Sean Strickland's getting close to them though, so maybe he steps in there, but overall, this is two of the most popular guys in the division. In a middleweight division that's actually pretty popping now if you look at it. I mean, there's a lot of fun fighters in there. So yeah, both of these guys, this would definitely be a number one contendership fight, and I think it's a fight that just makes the most sense. Stylistically, this is probably a nightmare for Adesanya. I mean, you have a guy in Hamzat Chimaev. We know his game. We know how good of a wrestler he is. But we also know that Hamzat doesn't have the greatest of gas tanks. So maybe that's where Izzy can capitalize in this fight, bring this to the fourth, fifth round, and really just beat away at Hamzat. But Hamzat in those first couple of rounds is going to be very dangerous, and he doesn't have the wrestling or the takedown defense or the grappling that a Kamaru Usman does. So it's going to be interesting to see if he can really survive that onslaught. But if he can survive that onslaught, I think he would have a pretty good chance at actually winning this fight. I would bank on his cardio being better than Hamzat's, especially in the later rounds with the more experience too. And overall, I think if he can keep this one off the mat, I think he can pick apart Hamzat pretty easily on the feet. I mean, this is Israel Adesanya, remember. This is still one of the best kickboxers in the world. Doesn't matter what's happened. We know he's one of the best, and if you're going to stand with Izzy for 25 minutes or even when you're exhausted after a couple rounds, I don't see why Izzy can't go out there and find his chin. Now, this fight actually gets me really excited. I think this is one of my more desirable matchups in this division, but where exactly would this fight take place? I mean, would it happen in Saudi Arabia on a fight night main event? I highly doubt it, honestly. I think this fight is definitely pay-per-view for sure. Could be a co-main, potentially even a main on a card that doesn't have a belt fight. I think 100% this could carry its own card and be a headliner, 100%. So definitely not there. International Fight Week would be interesting. It wouldn't be the headliner for Fight Week, though. Definitely have a title fight on there, but potentially maybe a Israel Hamzat co-main to a Jones Stipe or a Jones Aspinall International Fight Week. I'm down for that. That sounds awesome. Or maybe put it on somewhere else later in the summer. Either way, if you're going to make this fight, has to be on pay-per-view, and honestly, it has to be pretty soon. Because to be honest, Dricus du Plessis needs a contender, and right now, there are not a ton of options. I mean, you can't really go Robert Whittaker because DDP finished Whittaker right before he won the title. You can't really go Paulo Costa because he just lost to Whittaker. Doesn't really make sense. Doesn't really deserve it. Sean Strickland, you could definitely give the fight to, but Dana already came out and said that Strickland won't be getting the immediate rematch, so poor Sean, but probably deserves it, to be honest, and probably makes the most sense out of all the options. And then there's Jared Cannonier, who's just not going to get that fight, let's be honest. So this Izzy Hamzat fight is really important, and we're going to need this fight to happen soon if we're going to pick a number one contender for it. Izzy actually also came out on Theo Von's podcast too and said that apparently he was offered DDP for UFC 300, and apparently DDP was the one who declined and said that he couldn't take the fight because of injury or something like that. Who knows how much we can believe that, but if it is true, then it means that the UFC has no issue putting Adesanya right back into that title picture, even if it was for a last gasp at trying to save the UFC 300 main event. Listen, I think this Adesanya DDP fight will happen at some point, but I just think he has to get through a guy before he can go up there and fight DDP. He has to do it the way all these other fighters have to do it. There shouldn't be a privilege for guys who are big stars, especially when they had immediate rematches for the title a year prior. So get Izzy in there, put him against Hamzat, get two big stars against each other. Just because it's not for a title doesn't mean it won't be a massive fight. Put these two guys together and let's see what happens. There's still a lot of things to work out for this fight and a lot of things that need to happen in order for this fight to take place, but I think Izzy would 100% be down for this fight. Hamzat, I'm a little worried with, but I think ultimately he would take the fight as well. And this would be a make it or break it fight for both of these guys. You win, you go on, you fight for the title. If you lose, I don't know. It's gonna be tough. But I like that there's so much stakes in this one, and I think it's time that the UFC finally puts together two big stars before they're in the title picture, and see who can come out on top. There you guys have it. That's what I think about this potential matchup between Izzy and Hamzat. Really hope this fight happens. It'd be pretty awesome. Let me know what you guys think, though. What do you think of this potential matchup between Izzy and Hamzat? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Let me know down below. I'm always interested to hear what you guys have to say. Thank you all once again for watching, and stay tuned over the next week for some UFC 299 content. That card's right around the corner. There's a ton of banger fights on it, and I'm going to be covering many fights on that card, so be on the lookout for that. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.